Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this webinar today. The topic of today's webinar is building effective cloud security. As you would know, there is digital transformation and transition which is happening across our industries, across our organization that we are working with. Deriving real-time intelligence across all your data at every step of this digital transformation is very critical for both operational and security purposes. So the agenda of today is how can we build effective cloud security in the cloud infrastructure that we have, thereby reducing risks, reducing cost and complexity of security, improve productivity, and improvement in the security posture. I would now like to introduce you to the esteemed speakers for today, George and Primal. They are experts and thought leaders in their respective fields and have contributed immensely to the growth of security best practices, frameworks, and methodologies. To introduce Primal, who is our first speaker, he's manager, solution architecture, global enterprises with ASPL. Primal has 25+ years of experience across technology, IT governance, risk and compliance. His focus is to dive deep with customers and create innovative solutions that maximize security, optimize costs, increase availability, and performance. The second speaker, George Gershaw, he's Chief Security Officer at Sumo Logic. At Sumo Logic, as Sumo Logic Chief Security Officer, George brings around 20+ years of information technology and system management experience in IT systems and disciplines. His background includes security, compliance, cloud computing disciplines, and he has built teams with compliance teams and modern day SOC operations in rapid development organizations. With that, I will now like to hand over it to Primal for taking us through the session, which is building effective cloud security. Over to you, Primal.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome. So in the first half of the session, we'll look at some of the AWS capability for building effective cloud security, and we'll take a very quick high-level look at some of the security services as well as integration, what we offer between AWS and our partner Sumo Logic. But before we start, let me just give you a very quick overview that how customer of all scale and size and every imaginable business segments and vertical is using AWS in a very meaningful way. If I have to call out some of the unicorns of today and tomorrow, the startups like Razorpay, Policy Bazaar, Lenskart, and ChaiPoint are running effectively on AWS some of the meaningful workload, and they have built a large scale, business on AWS. For an example, some of our customers like Lenskart has also built the AR/VR kind of capability for them to try and test, different products for their customers. Razorpay is also using AWS platform for a large-scale payment management system, and they are also using underlying security and compliance as that is one of the key criteria for any payment service provider to be in line with some of the regulations like PCI DSS. Not only startups, but even the enterprise and some of the large enterprise like HDFC Life, Aditya Birla Capital are having a meaningful workload on AWS, and they are really reinventing and innovating on AWS. Some of our customers like Hotstar are using AWS platform to offer media and entertainment for a very, very large scale. And they also are able to leverage AWS platform to have elasticity as well as agility. So it is giving them that benefit of using the underlying platform in line with their customer demand. So as and when they have a very increased spike during some of the festive season or from the content consumption side of it, or some of the sports season wherein the people are a lot more interested in India in cricket, and Hotstar is able to serve them, in a very effective way by using AWS technology and creating a customer-rich experience. When I look at these customers and when we talk to them and when we ask them that how they are benefiting from AWS platform, there are two key themes emerge. One key theme which they share us with that they are able to use the AWS platform platform which offers them a very superior visibility as well as control. And we understand that this visibility and control is very important for a customer of all scale and size, because in today's world, every other customer is having a security on top of their mind. And they would like to have a very good visibility about how their data is being stored, consumed, and processed. At the same time, the control over the data so that they can able to effectively decide where they want to store their data. Our platform also gives them the ability to fine-grain controls so they can decide that who, from when, and how they can access that particular data. We offer services wherein these controls can be put in a very, very granular way, wherein you can restrict your administrators or your developers or your AWS platform consumers to only select such set of services or a subset of services or some of the function within the services. And this superior visibility also gives them a very great vantage point to identify some of the risk and reduce it by using continuous automation and monitoring. Another benefit which we hear from our customer that they are able to use and leverage a very tight integration with available between the services, and that is helping our customers to automate when it comes to security and compliance. With this tight integration, they are able to automate by using the concepts like event-driven security. They are able to identify desired and undesired events. They can take some of the actions based on the desired event. For an example, if the desired event is that there is an increase in load, then they can use that desired event and can trigger an automation wherein they can add an extra capacity to their workload to serve their customer. At the same time, this continuous monitoring and protection also provides the insight into some of the undesired event if they would like to identify and then create an alert or create an automation so that they can increase their operational efficiency and focus on critical issues and don't have to spend too much time in doing heavy lifting for day-to-day operations. And these two key benefits all put together, is helping our customer of all scale and size to leverage AWS platform better. When it comes to AWS capability, we offer a host of capability around foundational layer as well as layered security services. But let me step back and give you a very quick overview that how do we work towards these services. We at AWS are customer obsessed organization, and we always try and work backwards from the customer. A large majority of our product roadmap is influenced by customer feedback, and so as in this case of security. And when it comes to security and compliance, we take into account the requirement for our most security sensitive customer in mind and work backward and build into these platforms. When we build this capability into the platform, the benefit of this concept, overall this framework is that this capability is now available to all customers irrespective of their scale and size. So for an example, if we look backward, to look at some of our financial services customers who are very, very security sensitive, like maybe HDFC Life or Goldman Sachs or maybe HSBC. And when we work backward, take their feedback and build into the product, that capability is the bar raising capability, which is equally accessible to any other segment, including a university student. And that is very different from, the organization has been consuming technology, wherein they'll have to identify technology, go through a lengthy evaluation process, and settle on some of the technology based on their budget. But with AWS platform, they have an access to bar raising services and capabilities, on an opt-in basis. If I have to call out the few, we offer the capability around identity and access management, wherein you have an ability to granular control over your infrastructure. You can decide who can do what from when and how. You can whitelist services so that you let your customers only use the services which you have signed off from your overall security and compliance point of view. We also give you a services, for an example, AWS config, which enables you to access audit and evaluate configuration of your AWS resources. Security Hub provides you the high priority view of security alerts. On the protect side, we offer services like AWS Shield for volumetric attack protection and web application firewall, key management for managing encryption and the complete key management function. And even in case some of our customer needs even the higher order of control over their key management, we also offer solutions like AWS Cloud HSL. We also provide the directory services, for our enterprise customer if they want to bring in their enterprise directory and extend it to the cloud resources so that they can authenticate their users with their own authentication mechanism and directory. Moving on to the detect side, we provide capabilities for vulnerability assessment by using inspector and threat detection by guard duty. AWS CloudTrail and CloudWatch are the services which helps customers to create a continuous monitoring and store that trail of the events for the supported services in their environment for as long as they want, so that they can meet some of the internal and external compliance requirements. And we offer them the other services like AWS Lambda, as well as CloudFormation template and detective and etc., so that they are able to appropriately respond to in case of there is any event which they would like to automate and trigger some of the automation scripts that can be very well done through the CloudFormation as well as the lab. But today I would like to take a couple of minutes to talk about a little bit in detail about one of the services which has been very well accepted in the market by all of our majority of our customers, which is guard duty. So we started getting a customer feedback that you at AWS is providing us a good visibility into our logs through the capabilities like VPC flow logs, DNS logs, and CloudTrail events. But it would be also good, if you can help us to leverage your AWS and Amazon experience in terms of when we look at the overall threats and you can give us some more actionables, that would be helpful. And that feedback went into the product team. And as a result, we came out with this service which is guard duty to help our customers to intelligently detect threats and provide an actionable which they can act. The way this service works is that it takes into account the log sources like VPC flow log for the traffic flowing in and out of their VPC, the DNS query log, which are the logs which are originated from their infrastructure for the address resolution, as well as CloudTrail logs for the trail of their account for all the events for the supported services. Guard duty as a service takes into account these events, and we have also derived the security and threat intelligence through our own security teams and our security engineers, as well as some of our partners with whom we leverage the threat intelligence. And we also apply the machine learning algorithm on top of it to detect the unusual behavior and unusual traffic patterns. And that is available to our customer, in a very meaningful way in terms of the right categorization, in terms of the high, medium, and low. And those findings can then further be pushed into some of the AWS services like Security Hub, or you can push it into the CloudWatch or CloudWatch, so that you can create an appropriate remediation workflow. Our partner ecosystem is also very much leveraging this capability and have built products and solutions to leverage the findings which are rich in nature provided by guard duty. So the partners like Sumo Logic has providing a very tight integration with AWS services, including guard duty. As a joint effort between AWS and Sumo Logic, we are offering a quick start guide, which is available and accessible to you, wherein it is an available and pre-configured CloudFormation template, which we can quickly spin up the infrastructure into your AWS environment. Also enable some of the services which are supported and required at minimum. For an example, guard duty, CloudTrail, Security Hub, AWS config. And configure in a minutes to push this event into Sumo Logic for Sumo Logic to give you a rich SIEM or uh, threat detection and security monitoring capability on top. So with that, I'm handing over to George to cover the Sumo Logic capability. Over to you, George.
Great, thanks, Primag. And I got to tell you, it's amazing to see what AWS has been able to do over the years. So great partner. But I can remember when it was pretty much CloudTrail, and then now there's all these amazing services
Yeah.
that give you visibility into the environment. So thank you. The more services that AWS provides, the better off it comes to being able to secure cloud solutions. So thank you so much for all the great work you guys have done, and thank you for your partnership. So just a little bit of background. When I joined Sumo Logic 5.5 years ago, like I just mentioned to Primag, I mean, it was pretty much CloudTrail. And then you started getting the release of VPC flow logs and AWS config. And I found myself 5 years ago mainly talking about the security of cloud and how you could actually secure your workloads better in some cases in the cloud than you can on-prem. And I still believe that to this day, and that was 5.5 years ago. If you do it right, if you have the right amount of visibility and you leverage the right ecosystem of partners. And so big bets on AWS and then obviously Sumo Logic today. So let's get down into the meat, a little bit of what we do. So for those of you who are not familiar, Sumo Logic is a company that was born and bred in AWS, or a multi-tenant solution, 11 years ago. So it's been a while. We were in stealth mode for 2 years and then came out of that about 9 years ago. So the amount of data, I just want you to take a look at in that second column, the third piece down, 700 petabytes analyzed daily. There's no one else on the planet that can do that. And the reason why we can do that is because of the power of AWS on the back end and our scalable multi-tenant platform. So for those of you who may be familiar in India and other parts of the world, Epic Games, so Fortnite has become pretty big right now during this pandemic. I think every child on the planet's playing it, and that's one of our biggest customers, and they need that kind of elasticity as well. So I think that's the biggest thing, so being able to have that availability, the elasticity, and then securing those workloads is really where we come into play. Customers, so across the board, every single vertical you can imagine. You can see the FSIs on the upper left-hand side, all the way to healthcare. And one of the big things that comes with that is trust, so we have to build trust with our customers and be able to secure their workloads on a daily basis. And to really be able to narrow this down, we have a big presence now, in India, thanks to the work of Paul and team. So you can see a lot of notable type logos there that exist in that part of the world, and we're glad. We're really happy to have those partnerships. So thank you to any of you that may be joining from any of these wonderful companies as we continue to expand our footprint in that part of the world. So just a little bit about the platform as well too, and this is where I come into play. So as Chief Security Officer of Sumo Logic, very inbound. So I manage the SOC, Security Operations Center for Sumo Logic, as well as our audit and compliance team. And then we have a federal team here in the US, which I'll talk about just a little bit. And then also an automation team. So I'm lucky enough to have a couple of engineers on staff. So all of Sumo Logic, the entire thing is a CDE, which is a credit card data environment. And that's how we become PCI Level 1 certified. As you look through these certifications and attestations, this is not our first year. It's not our second year. So for most of these, we've been doing them for 5 or 6 years since I've been on board at Sumo Logic. So we have a very mature security program at Sumo, and we take a lot of pride in these. So again, if you're a retail customer out there and you're worried about credit card data, our entire environment has been certified against PCI for many, many years. SOC 2 Type 2, which in my mind is table stakes for cloud, so this will be our 6th year of doing that. ISO 27001, when it comes to improving processes over time and then showing that improvement every year, this is our 5th year there. And then CSA star on top of that. So ISO 27001 is a prerequisite for CSA star, and then we decided to take it all the way, and we were actually the first SaaS-based solution on the planet to become CSA star certified. So we're proud of that, 5th year there. And then for anyone doing healthcare, here in the US, it's all about PHI, or patient healthcare information. We protect that. We get audited against HIPAA every single year. And then EU Privacy Shield's kind of a shaky one now for those of you who follow privacy. So it looks like EU Privacy Shield is on its way out, just like Safe Harbor was, but we're still going to continue the practice, and whatever, whatever certifications, attestations we can do out there to continue to work with GDPR, or here in the US, CCPA, and the plethora of other privacy regulations, we're going to go after, so we will come up with the next alternative to EU Privacy Shield. And then again, the entire environment's encrypted. I can go through how we do a lot of that using KEK and everything else. Everything is TLS encrypted in transit. 1.2, everything else has been deprecated. And I actually need to update this slide. I thought I did before, but I probably missed it. We're FedRAMP in process as we start going down that federal path. And then obviously Center for Internet Security, AWS Foundations is something that we help our customers with, and it's a standard that we set for ourselves internally as well too. So a lot of pride in these. We're not perfect, but we have a pretty mature program out there, and we use Sumo to make sure that Sumo remains secure and compliant. So at any given time, we can go through that as well too. Okay, so as we start moving forward as well too, talking about AWS security monitoring, as I mentioned early on, it's important to have visibility into these services and to be able to have actionable insights into a lot of the data that you collect. And you want to be able to see the full stack of your workload. So one of the beauties of moving to cloud, and one of the reasons why I came to Sumo Logic, was I knew that we had the shared responsibility model with AWS, but I still want visibility. So even though with a shared responsibility model, I'm managing the data and the applications, I want visibility into the entire stack. So whether it's NetFlow type data with VPC flow logs, which we'll take a look at, or going all the way into S3, or taking a look at actually how the workloads are constructed, it's very important when you start moving out to the cloud, or you're in the cloud, to have this real-time intelligence to allow you to make data-driven decisions much, much faster. And so that's really where we start coming into play. If you take a look at, like I mentioned before, just seeing this is mind-blowing, and it's nothing compared to the list that Prima and I got up there. But, a lot of different services that add a tremendous value. We have pre-built applications right out of the box for all of these. So again, we're a premium partner of AWS. Work very closely together. I myself, even in my role, I was the PM for AWS Configs app with Sumo Logic. A lot of Sumos don't know that, and VPC flow logs. So very important to be able to understand what services AWS offers, what kind of visibility you need into those services, and then being able to bring that back into your SIM. And that's, again, where Sumo comes into play. So all of these that you're looking at, and this is just a sample of our application log, all of these exist turnkey, out of the box, frictionless, no infrastructure to set up, with Sumo Logic, which makes it amazing, being able to just put in your credentials and then be able to leverage these apps right away to have that extreme visibility across these different AWS services. So now, when we start looking at Cloud SIM and what that looks like, to me, this is a very unique thing in the marketplace. So SIM has always had a place, but now it's evolved more into the cloud, because why would you use an on-premise solution to manage workloads in the cloud, right? If you're going out to the cloud, you might as well use a cloud-driven solution to manage and secure the cloud. And the way that I like to explain this, especially to other leaders out there, is if your company is going cloud first, it doesn't make any sense for you as a security person to go to your CFO or chief financial officer and try to bring in solutions that require more on-premise infrastructure. And especially in today's times, so we're in very unique and uncertain times out there. And the last thing that we want to be doing right now is managing data centers or building data centers and worrying about the health of our employees coming in and out of these data centers, or contractors, and managing all that. Here in the US, as you know, we're opening up as much as we can, even though I think we're going to shut right back down. So having that responsibility of fever checks and wearing masks, and again, putting people at risk, is just not the way the world is going today. Everyone's moving out to the cloud. Everyone's moving more towards SaaS-based solutions. So the way that our SaaS-based solution works is pretty simple. So the first piece is that extreme visibility that allows you to detect malicious activity or anomalous behavior. The second piece is after you have that visibility, doing a deep investigation and workflow as to what that cause was. The third one is our response. So whether it is okay, whew, that just happened to be, Paul, trying to get into by accident, workloads that he shouldn't be able to get into, we can go ahead and do a postmortem, or some serious automated remediation and escalation and shutting down of certain workloads and then spinning them back up when they're secure. That response piece is big. So it's a full circle of security that takes place mostly in an automated fashion. Now, when we start looking at the AWS portfolio, I could go on and on. Again, I was the PM for several apps for Sumo when I first joined the company, to give you that extreme visibility and value with a lot of what they provide. But the one that I really, and again, EC2, S3, CloudTrail, the list goes on and on. But the one I really wanted to focus on and have you take a look at is VPC flow logs, because I think it's a very underrated app and service that AWS provides. And so if you take a look at the dashboard that we're showing here, VPC flow logs is like NetFlow, but in AWS. And so it gives you several things. It gives you port protocol being used, source destination IP, and packet size, packet reject. And so when you start thinking about what's happening at that level, you can start tying that into threat intelligence. And that's one of the other things that we really bring to the table and that we use internally quite a bit, which is built-in threat intelligence with CrowdStrike. And so as a Sumo customer, you get this for free. So you get those threat feeds, and then now you're able to do a comparison of CrowdStrike's threat feeds with Sumo Logic to be able to detect indicators of compromise, or IOCs, when it comes to URLs, domain names, and especially IP addresses. And so my team, our SOC, is constantly looking for blacklisted IPs and malicious activity via this natural integration that we have with CrowdStrike and Sumo Logic. And of course, we do stuff with GuardDuty as well too, and I'll talk about that in a second. But being able to have that extreme visibility and then that actionable steps whenever we start seeing those threat feeds come in and get those indicators of compromise is invaluable to our SOC, and be able to build trust with you, our customers and prospects, and to continue to keep our security posture up. So I did want to have a focus there, but again, out of the box content across multiple AWS services that we showed you before. But again, a lot of value in VPC flow logs, and you're actually looking at product there. In fact, that dashboard is written by Sebastian Mank, which is one of our SOC analysts that sits in Poland on my team, and super proud of the work that he's done. As we start moving more into more details, I think foundational SIM capabilities is a big thing. So at Sumo, what we started seeing was, as a native platform, we did a really good job of collecting data and then being able to analyze data, but we wanted to take it a step further. So last year we did the acquisition of a company called Jask. Jask was a SOC analyst point of view, cloud-based solution. That was a SIM, and then we integrated the two. So this was in November, and now since they were on AWS, we're on AWS, we combined those two platforms. And so one of the big things that JAS brought to the table for Sumo, which is our cloud SIM enterprise solution, was not only being able to quickly detect whenever there's a possible threat out there, but it's also that capability of writing rules to be able to go a little bit further in investigation while still keeping our machine learning and outlier detection alive, but also alert fatigue. So this has always been kind of an issue in this space, has been, I'm only as good as the rules that I write. So that's why you need some machine learning and AI taking place with it. But then also, what alerts really matter? What events are the true events that matter when it comes to cloud? So as we start looking at things like security operations automated response, or SOAR, which is a big buzzword today, I need something that's going to be cloud native to understand how these cloud workloads work. Again, we can collect information and work with on-premise solutions as well too, but having that capability to be able to do that with those workloads and then automate the response, whether it's a remediation piece or continued investigation, is absolutely critical, especially when it comes to a post-mortem, and then being able to see that workflow that's taken place and then automate it again the next time around. Because the last thing you want to do is continue to have security events that are similar and then have your analysts working on those events all the time. Eventually what the goal is to be able to pass that off to the machines and systems themselves for some kind of automated remediation. So then that way your SOC can focus on new threats, new items taking place. And so, you know, these 400 plus pre-built security dashboards and alerts, that's no joke. You know, so being able to have that at your disposal is absolutely key when it comes to your cloud SIEM enterprise. So this is the way that we believe that the industry is headed, and this is the service that we provide today. So starting to take a little bit of a deeper analysis across the board, to be able to detect a lot of these threats in real time, like I mentioned, in my mind is critical. But one of the very unique values that we bring to the table is anomalies. You know, so for example, one of the big use cases that we use internally is looking for brute force attacks. So I want to be able to identify, not to pick on Paul too much, but if Paul is getting his SSO login, you know, so whether it's Okta or Azure AD or OneLogin, whatever you use, we have pre-built applications for those. If he's logging in from India via SSO, but he's getting an MFA push that's coming from, let's say, Poland, and there's no VPN in the middle, that's an issue, right? That's something I want to know. Why is there two disparate systems and two geographical locations without a VPN in between? That means that someone's trying to compromise his account with a brute force attack. So I want to be able to detect that anomaly via multiple data sources, which is SSO and MFA, and then also VPN logs, but then also recognize when an anomaly is taking place and he's trying to do something he hasn't done before. So again, the industry is moving that way, still have the capability to do rule writing through Boolean logic, but at the same time, leveraging a lot of that anomaly detection along with outlier detection is critical to how we scale moving forward within security. Manually doing these things is not going to work in the future. There's just too much data out there and too many workloads in different locations. So this is a program that I wanted to stop and take a pause. I know I talk really fast, I apologize, especially early in the morning here in the US. But global intelligence is a very unique offering that, again, only Sumo Logic can provide. And the reason why is our multi-tenancy. So what is it? So as you start to take a look at this, a few different things as we peel back the onion. As Premag mentioned before, the power of guard duty. You know, so guard duty brings a lot to the table when it comes to threat detection, and then focusing on different AWS workloads like VPC flow logs, which I mentioned before. So being a multi-tenant service, we have the capability, and I'm going to go through this slowly because sometimes people feel a little bit threatened by this. We have the capability to see metadata for our customers. So it doesn't mean that I can see your data. When I went back and showed you our security, everything at Sumo Logic is encrypted. I mean, absolutely everything. Whether it's AES 256-bit encryption, whether it's encryption, you know, in transit, encryption at rest, it doesn't matter. The way that we do our keys, you know, we rotate our keys every 24 hours using key encryption key, and then we store those into a third-party proprietary vault in S3, which is re-encrypted with KEK, our key encryption key. So everything is locked down, but there is this unique value of metadata. So when you start thinking about metadata, I can now see the metadata of multiple customers out there when they opt in. What is the value of that to you? The value of that to you is we can actually compare and contrast between our customers who's getting these different threats out there within the environment, whether it's an access threat, as Prima mentioned, Bitcoin mining threat. We can see it across our customer base that opts in. So you can now see where you're at versus the rest of our customers. This has been the dream forever. Ever since MSSPs got started, the promise was always, how am I doing versus the world? Or how am I doing versus people in my vertical? If I'm in retail, if I'm in finance, am I better or worse than everyone else? So this starts giving you that sense, so that red line that you see in the middle there, that's the median. That's like where the average is as far as threats and vulnerabilities are concerned. Then you get to see if you are below or above that line. And then the part that I really love about this is that bottom right-hand side. Rare threats. So for my SOC, we opt into this. So that means that you would be comparing yourself against us, but you can't see who the other customers are, which again, goes through privacy and everything else, but you can see how many customers have opted in. So whenever I see a rare threat type, something that we've gotten internally at Sumo that no one else has, or only maybe 2 people out of 1,000 have, I know that's an issue. And then I can start seeing like how those workloads were created, how they were secured, so I can follow some best practices to get there. So again, this was created with AWS Guard Duty in mind. We've expanded this out, but holy smokes, I mean, it's incredible to be able to measure yourself with local threats and a global benchmark against a subset of other people. And again, we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of folks out there that you can measure yourself against. You can see what threats they're getting versus which ones you're getting. And again, what their security posture looks like. So super valuable. Again, very unique to Sumo Logic. This is one of the reasons why I came to the company again, is because without that multi-tenancy, there's no way you could see this. If you were in a single tenant solution, you're just in your single tenant solution, right? And in this case, you're able to leverage the power of what are other people doing to make sure these workloads are secure within AWS. So again, a very powerful program, and I highly suggest for you to look for something like that. So why Sumo Logic? So like right now with all the architecture out there, everyone is saying they have a cloud SIEM. Everyone is talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence. Well, it's a lot of different things. The first one is actually down on that bottom right, secure platform. So my team is always going to do our best to secure your data. So again, we've been around, out for 9 years, 11 years, we got started to go with security built into our DNA. We're not perfect, knock on wood, but we have a very mature program out there to secure your data. And then we take those best practices external. I think also, if we move up to the right a little bit, is that scale. That elasticity that we provided with that multi-tenant platform is unrivaled in the industry today. If you're a customer and you're giving me 10 terabytes today, and tomorrow you deliver some amazing product that drives you to 40 terabytes, you don't even have to tell us about it. We will just automatically scale with that. That's the beauty. And it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 5, or 6 of you, we're going to scale. And that again is the fundamental core of who Sumo Logic is. So 200 plus supported apps, that doesn't even give us enough credit. We're well over 400 apps out of the box. That cross-functional collaboration. So again, I want to pause here for a second because I've been talking about security because I'm a security guy. But in this modern day world, I'm glad that a lot of our use cases are not just about security. We have an operational point of view. We have a BI or business intelligence point of view. And then we also have a development point of view. And the advantage of this is when I think about early in my career, I would work a SIM and I would find an event out there and I would go over to IT and say, hey, listen, I found this security event. It looks like, you guys have added the wrong person to an administrative access group. Then they would turn around and look at their logging solution and go, no, that's not what our logging solution says. And then developers would come in with their own syslog tool. So then everyone was using their own logging tools for analytics and finger pointing would take place. Those days are over. It's too expensive, one, and then, two, you're managing 3 different logging solutions in most environments. So the key is to have one authoritative set of truth and then look at it through different lenses. So whether you're looking at it from a security perspective, operational perspective, business intelligence, or development, those use cases still fit, but you have that trusted source of data. And that's what matters, right? Is that trusted source of data. And so it's not just about security, it goes well into the organization across multiple lines of business. And all of us have got to get in this mindset, and especially in today's climate when we're under a lot of pressure, and we should be, to be very careful with our dollars for our organization. Unlimited seats, access to support, our support team, customer success, best in the world. tops in the planet. We have to earn your business every single day being a SaaS-based company. It's not like we come in, sign a multi-year deal, and then have to maintain that infrastructure over time and walk away. We earn your business every single day, and we do that by collaborating with you and making sure that you're achieving your business goals. And then finally, this unified risk view of hybrid IT. So I get it. Not everyone is in the cloud, right? We still have on-premise workloads, and we collect that data and do a lot with you with that data to ensure that your cloud journey is going to be successful and secure. So a simplified workflow for security analysts. So this is the HUD, and I love this slide. So this is the view, right? So this is the view that you get as a security analyst or a responder sitting in a SOC when you're using our product. And so the beautiful part about it is you have this concept of signals and insights. So signals, when I'm looking at the dashboard, that's more on the outer ring. It's going to start telling me, hey, look, things are getting a little bit funky. It looks like Paul again, his account got compromised or possibly compromised. He's having issues logging in, but don't worry about it yet. We're just surfacing it up. So we're gonna get some signals out there. But when you start seeing these insights right here, right, and these are these little triangles there, that is something that really needs to be investigated. And again, it's a consolidation of analytics algorithms that tell me that I have a real issue, and these 7 things I need to dive into right away, and start figuring out and working with our workflow and analytics to be able to identify what those are, and then automate some of that functionality moving forward from a SOAR perspective. So again, as a SOC analyst, I love this view, right? It reminds me of Halo, right? For those of you who are gamers out there, it's got a gamification type front end that gives me actionable insights right away. So again, you're looking at the HUD, and I love the capability of being able to dive immediately right into those signals to be able to start getting actionable items and then start seeing what some of those are. So I can see right here, this is a threat intelligence match for a source IP address that now I can start saying, okay, so is this a blacklisted IP or is it not a blacklisted IP? And then continue down the path of, once I detect it, get into that heavy investigation, deeper analytics behind it, and start getting to exactly what that capability is. And I can search for that information across multiple data sources within Sumo Logic, and then start creating deeper queries and automated queries to be able to understand exactly what that problem is. And then finally, the response that comes into play. So I can now start seeing, across the HUD, what new insights we have out there, new signals as well, what we have in progress right now that we're currently investigating, some pending, information around response, and then finally being able to tier that off, tie it off, and get into a post-mortem. So coordinated efforts, across the board with your ticketing system. So if you're using Jira, ServiceNow, whatever it may be, to really be able to automate a lot of that workflow via the HUD. And then finally, getting down to the root cause of a problem. So in this case, it happens to be escalation with lateral movement, which we never want to see any of that east-west movement within our organization, and then driving that thing to a postmortem. So again, just a really good example of being born within AWS cloud native with all that pre-built plumbing, having that DevSecOps mentality, which is moving with agility. So breaking down a lot of the silos of IT, but then also as a security team, we've got to move fast, as companies are out there moving to the cloud or building containers and deploying these workloads. As a security team, we've got to be quicker, and we've got to be just as agile as they are with that visibility. So being able to deploy and learn and then move quickly, and then also just try to get humans out of it as much as possible. We need the intelligence of humans behind it. But when you start seeing misconfigurations and things like that, you have a lot of things that you need to automate. As my friend mentioned before, you have CloudFormation templates and things like that you can actually leverage to be able to deploy these secure workloads. So then also being able to enforce security and compliance, right? It's one thing to have policies, it's another thing to come out here and enforce these on a daily basis and have that kind of visibility and alerting as well too. So on the next step of this, as we go through a million different dashboards here, again, being able to tie it back in from Cloud SIEM Enterprise, be able to see the actual raw data behind the queries themselves, being able to use things like log reduce, which is a native way that Sumo Logic, it's under patent, a capability to be able to get to what logs matter quickly, because when you start thinking about logs and looking through logs, it's like watching paint dry. So you want to be able to break this down to the logs that actually matter and the ones that caused an event and the ones that you should investigate. So again, things like log reduce fit into that. Log compare is something, again, that's unique to Sumo Logic, which we're showing you again here on the left-hand side, which will show me what my workload looked like actually before I moved to the cloud, and then what it looked like once I moved to the cloud. So that capability is really good for migration for our customers as well. And then outlier detection, which you can see here in the middle, which is super helpful as well too, to be able to leverage that intelligence of the data of the machines to be able to get to that root cause a little bit quicker. So a few things on my side before I hand it back off to Paul and team. So one, thank you very much to the partnership with AWS for that shared responsibility model, which I encourage everyone to get to learn out there so you know what your part is when it comes to securing data and workloads out there. And then start taking a look at some of our continuous intelligence assets out there. And then try Cloud SIEM for free. Again, it's a SaaS-based service. All it takes is credentials out there. Take a look at it. No infrastructure for you to manage. And then leverage some of these out-of-the-box capabilities that we talked about. And then also our work-from-home free analytics, where we start giving you the capability, even through an Atlassian Work Suite, Zoom, which we all know we had some issues with, but we love the application, to be able to make sure that you're safely working from home and that you've locked down some of those workloads. And then ultimately contact Sumo Logic, even reach out to me if you ever want to talk to my SOC or see how we use a product ourselves. But again, I want to thank you, all of you, good morning, good evening, good night, for your time today. And hopefully this was of value to you. And Paul, with that, I'll hand it back off to you.
Sure. Thank you very much, George, for the great session. I would like to thank Primal as well as George for this great session. Thank you very much thank you very much, everyone, for your time today and spending the evening with us. We'll probably stay for another couple of minutes. If you have any questions, you could type it in the Q&A panel. We'll try to answer that, or it could be done by George or Primal online, post which we could wind up the session. So if you have any question, feel free to type it in the Q&A panel.
Yeah, please do. If you have any, more than happy to answer those. And if there's not any, Paul, I guess we probably covered so much stuff, there might not be any questions.
I don't see any questions on the Q&A panel, so I think we should be fine. Again, thank you very much, Primal and George, and for each one of you. Thank you very much for your time today. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Paul, for having me here, and thank you everyone for your time.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Good evening.